Okay, in this video, we want to talk a little bit about project management, which is the combination of human and non-human resources pulled together uh, to achieve a specified purpose. So this is like people, materials, time, basically organizing all of that. So, as with most things in engineering and any problem solving, you got to have a well-defined purpose and goals. That comes back into the problem statement done with engineering design. We're looking to optimize our cost, our time, performance requirements, that sorts of things. The whole idea is to take this huge project and break it into completable tasks that are easy to manage. So we'll talk about how we do that moving forward in a second. So um, this uh, goes across all sorts of different resources, organizational lines. Okay, you do this for a single activity, whether it's building a building, designing an airplane, resurfacing a road, something along those ideas. So it's basically organizing that in a reasonable way. So the first thing you do with this is what we call a work breakdown structure, where you basically break again the huge project up into much more manageable tasks. And you can do this in varying levels, as we have here. So you may have like if you're designing an automobile, you may just have an engine group. And then within that engine group, you break that into specific ideas that you're looking into. Then you might have a suspension group, and then you've got some subtasks under that, right? And then you have the electronics group, and then subtasks under that. So you do this. It's almost like an outline of what needs to be accomplished, breaking things down into reasonable uh, sets of device or tasks that can be uh, done. So once you have those tasks, once you break down do that work breakdown structure, have your tasks. Okay. The next thing you need to do is basically figure out, how long each task is going to take, right? So going back to this car example, right? It might take 6 months for you to design the engine. Maybe the suspension, you've already kind of done that with a previous design, so you're only going to take 3 months for that, or what have you, right? And then you break again those tasks down more individually depending on how they are. Think about building a house. You've got framing to happen, right? And then the electrical and the plumbing and things of that nature. The bottom line is once you have how long each thing takes, okay, you then basically come up with what's called the critical path, right? So you lay out all of your tasks. Now, there are certain tasks that cannot even be started until a previous task is complete. For example, let's go back to the building of the house. I cannot do the electrical work until the entire building is enclosed, right? Well, I can't do the outer walls, right, until the framing is put up. Well, I can't do the framing until the foundation is poured, right? That sort of thing. So there's this critical path which may start with, pouring the foundation, building the frame, skinning the outside of the house, right? Putting on the roof. But at the same time, you could probably put the roof on at the same time you're skinning the house, right? So there are certain tasks that can't be done until the previous was done, but then there are other tasks that can be done in parallel. So once you get basically the whole thing enclosed, right, then both plumbing and electrical could come in and get to work, right? At the same time. Now, plumbing might take longer than electrical, but the drywallers can't come in until after both of those are complete, right? So this is what we get at when we get to the critical path, right? Where you can't do the next step until the previous one is complete. There are certain things that could be going on at the same time. You could be painting the outside while the plumbing's going on, right? And that could go on whether or not you've got the drywall in or not, right? So it all boils down to that critical path. And this basically, you set that critical path and you plan around that because, again, that's the fastest you can do things, right? How long is it going to get the foundation? How long for framing? How long for the roof and skinning, right? Then how long for the plumbing and electrical? Then how long for the drywall, right? All of that stuff uh, has an order, can't be done until the previous one. There may be other tasks that you can fill in then around that can be done in parallel, but finding that critical path will define the quickest time to get to the end of the project that you're working on. Okay, so we kind of talked about through that, right? You come up with your activities, you determine the length of time for each one, right? And then you identify that critical path and then fill in things as you move around. Once you have all of those tasks, you've kind of got that critical path set. We build what's called a Gantt chart, and you can do this in Excel. There's many different ways you can use this, and our class will use Excel. Okay, where basically each row going down is a specific task, right? What I have here is basically, what we talked about with the building of a house, right? So dig a hole, build the foundation, right? That sort of stuff. Okay, those are each of your tasks. Along the top is time, right? So it looks like we've got about 4 months broken up into weeks. Okay, uh, that's the time. Each length of a bar here is how long it's going to take. It's got a beginning and a start date. So this is the rough frame of the house, right? So it's going to start about this day and about this day. That's like October 10th through the 20th or something like that, right? So it's that 10 days that you're blocking out for that. Again, you can't install the windows and doors until that's finished. So then you got the windows and doors coming in at that point once it's finished. Okay. But there are certain things you can install windows at the same time you're installing doors, right? So those can go over uh, the top of one another, right? You can start doing the rough wiring before the doors are in, stuff like that, right? But there's certain things that can't be done until the other thing, right? And you basically lay these out, knowing basically start and stop dates, length of those, what needs to be completed before you start that. That sets up this Gantt chart. So it gives you a visual representation of how the project's going to go, the tasks, start, stop time. And you can put milestones in there, right? Like the safety inspector is going to be coming on, November 1st. So we need to have this stuff done so we can set up that appointment. Another milestone might be, final walkthrough with the inspector, something like that. So you put all of that stuff, you get this nice chart that outlines your specific project. And that's really the very, very quick overview of how project management will work on an engineering site.